Granny had offered all of us to come down to the farm, and Dad had been a bit keen that I wouldn't come unless we had the land ourselves. I wouldn't come down and build a house on somebody else's land. So Granny gave us all the land at the farm, which was a wonderful thing to do, which has benefited all you people since.
Yes.
And so Dad put in for the subject master at Kingston High School. And that's where he and the chap that owned the Polish coffee shop
In Tambourine.
at Tambourine, Souter, what was his Christian
Phil,
name?
is it?
Phil
Phil
Souter. Phil used to come along and they'd meet at Logan Village and both go to school together.
Okay.
Then when Phil and them bought the Polish coffee shop, or the place up there, we took all their chooks and that, and they come and help build the chook run with Dad. So,
Okay. What did they take a car? How did they get
well,
to...
they both had a car and they left one car at Logan Village. They shared cars.
Petrol, right.
So, because we didn't have a second car, so the day that Dad didn't, I would have the car. So then Browns Plains opened up, and that was very much closer to home. So Dad put in for the subject master at Browns Plains, and that's where he was till he gave up. And he had the hip replacement, and he was going to retire early. And he had the hip replacement, so he took a fair bit of sick leave because he had a lot of sick leave. And of course, it wasn't long after that he, took that turn and died at Anne's wedding. But he coached a lot of kids. A lot of kids to this day. Rose Hopkins, Margaret Hardcastle just rang me 2 days ago. Just how Mike used to go there, and he always liked ice cream, so she'd give him a big bowl of ice cream and Andrew a big bowl of ice cream. He coached, and Hopkins has always said that Rose got there because of what Dad did. And he was very, very wrapped up in the Adventure Club, which was building the canoes. They built a lot of fiberglass canoes, which they sailed down the Logan that time. So I was active in church things a bit and Meals on Wheels and things like that, but I never got into social things at all myself.
Do you know the dates of Dad being at Browns Plains and Kingston? Do you know any of those dates?
He would have been at Kingston. We come down at the end of 78, so he'd have been at Kingston from 79. I'd say he could have been there 10 years, and then the rest of the time he would have been at Browns Plains. So.
And how old was he? I remember him retiring early because you both had planned on getting into the farming a lot more.
Yes, yeah.
You were going to do beef.
He'd retired, and he had his sort of retired. And he took all that long service for his hip, and he did have his passport photo because he was going to go over. Because you were all over there.
So how old was he when he retired? Do you remember that?
I think he died at 58, going on 59. So I reckon he retired. Probably about it might have been 57 in the December, and he might have retired that. He wasn't retired that long because he had the hip place, and then he wasn't.
Because I remember there were parties.
I think he might have retired about 57. I'm not quite sure.
We had the party at our place in the shed, didn't we? His retirement party, wasn't there a party there? So. So going back to you, Mum, then, because that's a whole story about. With Dad, isn't it? So I guess in summary, though, with Dad, he met you in Mackay. He was at the Mackay State High and the North Mackay State High. I think if I remember from a child, you'd put in for a transfer a few years in running, didn't you? But you didn't get it for a couple of years.
Yes, he put in for a deputy principal, and I was always sad because Dad would have been a great deputy principal, but he had that stammer.
Yeah.
Now today people would be up in arms about it. But we always said that the stammer
prevented him
because I mean he was, as you know, a great person with other people. And I was always sad for him that way. But he might have been a much better subject master because he was very, very good at maths.
Yeah.
And then we had those two great friends that helped you a bit. We had Jan Finlay.
That's true, yeah.
And Robin
Who had moved
Wallace.
from Mackay as well, hadn't
Yes,
they?
and they'd moved from Mackay. And I should contact them. They're still
doing well. And
yeah.
was he, when you got the notice that you were getting the transfer finally after you've been trying for a couple of years, was he pretty excited about that?
Oh, well, we were excited, you know, because by then Mum and Dad lived down here.
Yeah.
And we sort of didn't have anybody in Mackay, but you did have, and it was hard because...
Actually, Mum lived down here. Your dad didn't at that point because he'd passed away.
No, well, he'd passed away, but Mum was down here, Brenda was down here.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of friends in Mackay, but some of them were also shifting. Our Gormans had shifted and so on and so forth. And that first year, we lived with Granny while our house was getting built, and it had its goods and its bads. Yes, because Granny was sort of pretty bit untidy, and then we had that spare room, and I'd just throw everything in the room, and so that's where some of my family might have taken after me. But then I gradually got to, and then our house was finished, and it was nice. It was nice still while Granny was there, and then we had Mama, Auntie Brenda, then we had Auntie Lynn and all of them, Auntie Murray all around us, and so. You know,
so probably you both love that, you and Dad at the end, because you
and I loved the farm then.
You loved the farm because you loved farming life, and you really had Auntie Brenda and Mama, your sister and mother, down the road. Obviously, Auntie Carm was further afield, but they were down the road, and I guess even your weekly going to church, you had everyone that you went to church with, all the family went, all the rest of the family, so you had Granny and everyone go there as well. So
and then Auntie Lynn and I we used to go to the markets to save money because you got food out there. And then when Auntie Lynn's family grew up a tiny bit, I don't know what, but Diane Connor and I used to go out to the market sort of once a month, and I still like getting all the specials. So,
and how did you cope with your move from Mackay? Because you'd grown up in Mackay, so in fact it was I guess you were born in Toowoomba.
Yeah, but you'd mainly grown up in Mackay.
So that was a pretty big and significant move for you, bringing the... But you'd have, mind you, you'd been to the farm many holidays.
Yeah, but you had a lot of people in Mackay, and you were part of that establishment at the church. I suppose the church has always been part of... Well, it was Dad's, part of my life.
Yes.
And, like, Bernice Wright and all of those type of people. But, look... You make, and that's what I said, and if he looks at this, I said to Uncle Peter the other day, he doesn't like the thought of perhaps leaving Wesley Hospital and all that. And I said, even in Bedesset, I was involved in a terrible lot in Bedesset. You leave, somebody takes your place, and I found a life down here that I now love. I've got family close, and round here, so your life, like leaving Mackay to come to the farm, you gradually cope.
So I remember Auntie Cairns being very, very upset when we left because she had you from a young child being in the
and Auntie Kit Bowes too.
And Auntie Kit, which were both grandma figures to us as well. So that was probably the hardest thing about leaving Mackay for you and for us probably was leaving them. But so Mum, going on to you then, we talked about Dad and his jobs, and obviously you reared us mostly and you did everything for us, and so we were very privileged and fortunate to have a mother at home cooking for us and helping us with our homework and taking us to school.
Not too much homework, Kath. I wasn't too clever in that
area. I dispute that, Mum. You keep saying that, but it's definitely not true. And you were always there to help us with everything. You typed a lot of our assignments and things. But let's go back to your work and go from what you did both when you worked before marrying Dad and when you gave up, and then on to all the volunteering activities you did. So what were your jobs after school?
Oh, well, after school, in my day, the first two girls to do senior from the Catholic school was from my class. We had 16 girls in my class, and two of them stayed on, and the nuns coached them, and they did grade what you're now 11 and 12, which we call sub-senior and senior. If you did want to go on to school, like Les O'Gorman and them, you went to the state high school in which was right in the town in Mackay.
So it was of St Patrick's where you were at high school?
Yes, and it was only a very little school,
So when you're saying the first two girls, that was at your school?
Yes, that went in, and they did senior. So we all got a job, and if you got a job in a bank or something like that in those days, you thought you did pretty well. Well, pass the exam for the Commonwealth Bank. Nani Carmel had been in the Commonwealth Bank, and I did get a call up for the Commonwealth Bank. But Carmel's friend, Josh Jackson, who's now Josh Jabor, that today I'm still very friendly with, her father managed what you call the Department of Labour and National Service. That was when National Service was in. It also became the Commonwealth Employment Service, which is very much like Centrelink today, but not upmarket like Centrelink. And there was 3 men and myself in the office, and it was the greatest job you could have. I was sort of spoiled, but every payday I always bought lollies, and it was a wonderful job. And so I was there from the day I sort of started work.
So what did you do in that job?
You did a fair bit of typing. You did interview, as I got a bit on, you'd interview people that were coming, you write up their cards for what sort of jobs. If they'd have been a cane cutter, they'd come in, because the cane cutting season was only for half the year. So they'd either come in to register for unemployment benefit or to see if you could get them another job. I didn't get them the other jobs, the men saw to that, but I would talk to them and write their cards up, sort of thing.
So you probably enjoyed having a chat to them all, because that's your skill set, is chatting to people, and they would have loved their conversation.
Well, a couple of them, one used to come in, and I can still remember him. He was really a poor old, used to drink kerosene and so forth. And Mum would get me sandwiches, and I'd bring him sandwiches in to try and give him something to eat. I loved the job. And then in those days, if you worked for the Commonwealth, the moment you got married, you lost your job.
It's amazing.
So, but I was probably lucky because we got married and then we had Michael, 9.5 months later. So, and I never went back ever to work like that.
It's a sign of the times, that, isn't it? Like, that doesn't happen today,
Well, none of my friends went back to work.
Yeah, see, that's
but see, there was the Grail in Mackay. It was run by, the Grail ladies were given their life to God, but they wore ordinary clothes and that, and they had the Grail in Mackay that was for boarders, like for the Hannahs, the Lizzies, the Gracies, the Mollys.
Like people that were going to school or uni or something.
Oh, well, they were working. None of them went to uni or that. They'd be working, but they'd from the country, so they'd live at the Grail. Well, then what the Grail did for mothers with young babies, once a month they had, we'd go for morning tea, and the Grail ladies would mind all the kids downstairs. So we had that, and then we had a week.
So, Mum, we just, the camera went off then, so we're not sure what was missing, but I was asking you just to outline the volunteering things that you did.
Well, the volunteering
from when we were young
to
from when you stopped your job up until now, really, I guess.
Well, the volunteering in Mackay probably was a different sort of volunteering to when I was in the desert. The more I think of it, I did work on the touch shops in Mackay, well and truly, and we helped a lot, as I said, at the bingo with the school and all that. But in those days, Michael was very much into football, and he used to play with the school on a Friday, so I'd go and sort of watch him.
Was that at St Mary's?
At St Mary's, and he was showing up as though he wouldn't be a bad footballer. Then
was that rugby?
Rugby league.
Right.
And then you, Kathy and Anne were very much sort of into hockey. And I can remember going along to the hockey fields and sort of watching you play that. Then
yes, Chris, we used to have the teacher pick us up sometimes that lived in our street.
That's right. Then Chris and Dad was coaching it. He was playing basketball, which Dad was coaching, and he had Ian Downs' son in it too. Chris, I don't think played football because he didn't play football, I don't think at all. Then
didn't you have a fright with Michael with football that he was concussed or something like that, and so
I think he might have been, but
you stopped football with Michael possibly?
I don't think we stopped it. And then when Bernadette, but see, she was only little in Mackay, so I don't know whether she played any. Did Bernie play hockey? I can't think that if you played hockey or not. What we did do...
But she was only 5 when she left, so would she have
6,
played at that age? Or
we did get you all...
6,
you all
right,
learnt tennis, because we used to take you down to Queen's Park, and this Ernie, whatever his name was, used to coach your tennis.
I definitely remember playing tennis.
Yes.
Yeah. Tennis and hockey are the two things I remember. Yeah.
Well, then when we came to Bedesset, and to Michael and Anne and yourself were all in the guides and the scouts.
We were in Brownies, I think.
And Brownies and that, but I'd see Chris, we come to Bedesset then, and Chris I don't think was in it, and neither did Bernadette.
No.
So they missed out a bit that way. But then when we come down here, you all got coached a fair bit of tennis.
Tennis, yeah.
And Bernadette at John Paul College and that played a lot of, which I love, of course, she played a lot of softball. And I see there's a big write-up about the school down here at the Gold Coast. It's been given a heap of money for baseball. The baseball's coming right into it.
The other extracurricular in Mackay for us was learning the piano, actually.
Oh, yes,
we used to ride our bike to Mr. Epelair.
That's right, poor Mr. Epelair.
We'd get in a lot of trouble if we hadn't practiced.
Yeah, he was. And then when you come to Jimboomba, you used to go to that lady.
Yes.
You learnt a little bit from, I think, Irene Woodison, Diane's friend, but that Mrs. Williamson.